All right, good evening and welcome to the Town Buckland Select Board meeting. Today is January 11th. It is 5:30 p.m. This is our snow delay meeting. Had some nasty weather on Tuesday night, so we decided to push to today. We do have a pretty lengthy agenda tonight. Our biggest one obviously being our second listening session for the disposition of the police station down on Conway Street. For this, I know we heard at our last session, we heard a lot about a community health center. I think we kind of got everybody's vibe at that last meeting. What I would like to do is open it up tonight if there is any other people that would like to speak on the building. And so then we can move into setting up the RFP to start working on taking in bids from there. So I will open it up. Does any of the other select board members have any comments on this before I open it to the floor?
I want to hear what people have to say.
Okay, as do I. Do we have anybody that would like to speak? I know we did receive a letter from Brad Walker. I have read it. Would you like to get up and speak a little bit more on it, Brad? Sure. It was lengthy, so I didn't really...
Should I break it up so I can remember what I wrote?
I mean, if you would like...
do you have a copy there?
I do have a copy of it here. I know after, it's probably something that we can certainly post to the website for people to...
Brad Walker, representing 49 Conway Street, residents in Shelburne, Mechanic Street. So as you mentioned the letter, obviously you have a lot of different methods you can use to dispose of the property or keep it. As a business owner in town, I think that you have a unique opportunity that you still have a property that I'm sure took quite some number of meetings and some effort to obtain. And a decade later saying, oh, okay, maybe we don't need it anymore. Who knows what happens in another decade. I would generally encourage the town keeping the property and leasing it, longer term leases. But that would just be my preference if I were on, in town and doing that kind of thing. I understand the whole concept of the town not wanting to be a landlord, especially given the excitement in Orange, Lovely, and some other things that made the headlines. But regardless, having having the RFP out there that allows for both options would certainly maybe be beneficial to the town to see what kind of things you might be able to get out there. You do have options of payments in lieu of taxes that can oftentimes be used to offset the concept of, okay, you're leasing it, it's still the town doesn't pay itself tax, but you can either have a higher lease rate or actually have a pilot program to help mitigate that loss that you might have from not selling it. Representing myself as the mill, I do want to participate in any RFPs you guys submit, or bidding if you do decide to ultimately to sell. I do consistently turn away professional seeking office space. I've just scrolled through about 50 of the last couple hundred emails from this past year that I've received of inquiries into my mill space. I'm fully booked at the mill. I have no more spaces that don't need about $1,000 per square foot worth of renovation to get up and running. So I'm booked. I'm happy to, if someone else does acquire this property or a neighboring property, I'm happy to give them my list of potential tenants, obviously checking with those people first. But in scrolling through since October, I've had 4 different people or 5 different health and wellness practitioners contact me looking for space, and I've basically had to say, hey, it's not really what we do at the mill. We don't have super private spaces. Obviously, your police station building would lend itself better to that, having fully walled off and doored off offices and that kind of thing. Physical therapists, massage therapists, all that type of thing, I turn down somewhat regularly, enough that, if I were to lease it from you, I would be able to fill it up with that type of space, that type of service, knowing it has limited parking, knowing it is at the edge of your residential zone. I see it generally being something that you would want to use as a low-traffic type environment, I think. You have the ballpark, which is good, which does definitely drive a lot of traffic. It would be good to have any potential person in that space agree to maintain that parking lot as being accessible for the ball fields. From your experience being in charge of the ball fields for a while that parking is rough. Even with that hillside cleared up top, it gets tight and it's kind of tough. So I once wrote to Matt Cole at Great River about when they put up their aluminum fences on the Shelburne side, and said, wow, could you have at least got black fences to not quite look so industrial? Being in a butter, I would like to connect my trails with the trails that are part of the cricket field complex, which then go down towards Butterworth Ferry and what have you. So I would like to see any new tenants or owners of that property agree to allow that abutment to happen. I have 25 feet, and I haven't gotten into the minutia of the zoning and planning bylaws to know if that's enough of a buffer for me to put a walking trail in without the neighbors being able to say, no, we don't want people walking beside our property. If Great River Hydro were to be the purchaser, I think this would be a good time for the town to leverage the fact that, hey, Great River Hydro might want to purchase the property. The town, I know from sitting in this room about 10 years ago, representing the previous mill owner and shutting down the walking trail, the track that goes around the forebay. I did that because I was told that that's your job and you're going to represent me, and we're taking people off this trail. I now would be willing to sign an MOA or an MOU with Great River and with the town and whomever to allow access through my portion of, I own about half of that forebay up there and half of that trail, but they have the easement, they have the federal government behind them to say, oh, we got to have a fence. Well, we don't have a fence down at Gardner, so we don't really need a fence up there, in my personal opinion. So I'm willing to work with all 3 parties, and the town would need to leverage them, because I don't think that they will just, it's easier to do nothing than something. So of course, if you say, hey, could you open up the gate and let people walk here? Of course, there's going to be, nah, we don't want to do that. But it could certainly be something that you would talk to council about and see if you can have something in there that says, hey, if we're selling you this property, taking it basically out of the public domain, it's private ownership, give us a little something and give us an easement to the track that goes around the forebay so people can have that nice dog walking path back again. Community Health Center obviously would be great. A lot of people are in support of that. And similar idea though, and even if another private property owner buys it, I would like to try to work with them to utilize my portion of the property or theirs or whichever, agree with parking that, hey, if I have a hiking trailhead that's here, chances are people on Saturday are going to try and use your parking lot. Don't fight it. Don't do parking wars when you're not even in the office. Let there be a sign that says trailhead parking, that kind of thing. So I guess the short version is I'd like to see that property be at a minimum still maintain some public access, some parking access, especially on weekends for ball games and for trailhead access. At a maximum, I will participate in the RFPs to see if there's a use I can put it to that would be more community oriented. I have, again, about 4 or 5 health and wellness practitioners. I had 6 different woodworkers contact me since October wanting to do small wood shops, anywhere from 200 square feet to 800 square feet. Obviously, tons of artists. There's probably 16 or 17 artists on my list. I've got 4 or 5 writers on my list. And those are the ones who are still on my list because I'm hoping to someday, or if I have, like right now I have a vacancy, it's about to happen, and it's create all kind of excitement. And so, looking for the best fit for the spaces. And again, now understanding where this is in town, where it's still historic industrial, but it's definitely, 3 of the 4 butters are pretty much, if you don't count my little swath, are residential. Mm-hmm. So it would be good to kind of keep that low-key space for whoever's there. Is that kind of?
Well, thank you. Yeah.
There's nice hearing some different groups.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, you have.
Coffees are 15 cents, did you hear?
Yeah, that's going up.
Okay. Was there anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of this building before we kind of move into what we're looking at for the next steps?
I'll say something again. John Gould, North Street. I would like to basically applaud what Mr. Walker has said, and I think his suggestions are good, especially to the extent that it's somehow keep some community access or presence available to it. And I think the majority of what was heard last time was, people wishing for some kind of a medical facility there that would serve the community. And I don't know how that would dovetail with his suggestions, but that all is in how you shape the RFP, I assume. I think that's an excellent idea. I spoke up, of course, for what the planning board had proposed for that property for affordable housing, et cetera, but those suggestions would all entail basically removing the existing building. Whereas the majority of what I heard last time was to use the building that exists there, and it would appear to lend itself to that kind of a use as a clinic or something like that. So I would just like to reiterate my support for that idea. I know that it's tempting to feel like you can much more quickly wash your hands of the situation with some kind of a retail sale to a business or something like that. But I would urge you to think more long-term community participation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Marielle Alcaz, 44 Green Street. I would like to just kind of repeat what Brad and John have also said, and just say
If
that
you could just speak up, it looks like people are kind of trying to have a
yes.
hard time.
Sorry, I tend to speak very softly.
That doesn't go through there, so if you just...
Sorry, I tend to speak very softly. I would like to agree with John Gould and Brad on it being some sort of a community health center, possibly. I do agree with the idea of leasing it could bring some money into the town instead of just selling it. According to Brad, he has experience that there are some practitioners that have shown a lot of interest in running a space that he is now unavailable to give because he's overflowing. I also agree with it continuing to be a low traffic area, so I think a practitioner type space would be low traffic. The abutter wanting to be able to connect trails and have access for the community to still be able to access that area, completely agree with that. And he also mentioned, Brad also mentioned special needs parking, which I also find really important to be able to kind of share that. So I would agree. Thank you.
You have Jan with her hand up.
Hi, Jan.
I was just mostly asking because I couldn't hear, but I kind of agree with the last person. I didn't hear much of what the first person said, but it sounded like he owns the mill.
Yes.
And he wanted some continuity there with trails or something. something?
Yes,
Is that all?
yep,
Okay. Well, I like what you're all saying. It sounds like health staff would be great. I mean, a health clinic or even just offices, low traffic kind of situation. Not noisy, that sort of thing. Anything that the community might benefit from sounds great. Senior housing would be fine too, but if they kept the building, it's a nice building. So, that's about it. Thank you. I live on Summer Street, by the way, Jan and Boris. I always forget to do the protocol.
it's mainly for Mary, so we can keep track.
Because Jan lives in the neighborhood, I'd be curious if there's anything that that the neighborhood, or that she would be not wanting to see. Is that appropriate for me?
Well, anything that had a lot of traffic coming and going or something, anything noisy would be not as desirable in my estimation.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the main concerns. Noise and a lot more traffic than we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on a second, Dina, I do see you. I had one other hand up here first. Come on up, Miss Kelsey.
Thank you.
Miss Kelsey, 39 William Street. I'd like to see the property be sold to the highest bidder. We just got our tax bills. And also, I'd like to know, what is the floodplain situation right now in that area?
That would probably be,
Do you want your floodplain
maybe our new floodplain administrator could answer that question.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Okay. It is within the floodplain as far as the latest round of maps. I don't know if it's changed since the maps have been revised, but.
So what does that mean if it's in the floodplain, as far as coverage for insurance or building a building there? Is that...
That would be up to whoever purchases it to, if somebody purchases it and requires any sort of lending or mortgage or then they would have to work with their insurer. Somebody that did not have to use any sort of lending or borrowing would probably be not, they wouldn't need to have the insurance.
Has that question come up with other potential buyers to inquire about that?
No, because, keeping in mind that this is really not a negotiation that the board can have with individual sales, with individual potential buyers. It'll be through the RFP process. We would disclose that in our RFP, that people would want to, we wouldn't make a determination about floodplain, but we would provide the floodplain reference so that people could do their own due diligence. I'm sure it'll be part of people's decision-making, for sure.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Thank you very much.
But I just want to make sure that the town wouldn't take a position one way or another, because it really is so unique to whoever purchases it.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilmore?
Okay, thank you for holding this meeting again. I was out of town for your first public meeting. I'm very supportive of selling to someone who would put in, would provide health services. There was talk today, I just heard, of having the town lease it, and I would be very much against leasing that building and making the town responsible for maintenance and upkeep and all of that. I think that would be a big mistake. We don't have the resources in personnel to maintain that building as it is. So thank you for holding this public meeting. I think it's really important. I'm supportive of some kind of health care going in there, and also very supportive of selling the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. Yep, come on up.
So,
If you could just state your name so that we
sure.
can...
Yeah, so I'm Allison Vandervelden. I live in Deerfield, but I'm the CEO for the Community Health Center of Franklin County. And I just thought it would be, I'm not sure if I should be looking at the Zooms or, you will, okay. And I also speak quietly, so I guess I'll try to holler a little bit. Okay, I'll try to holler. So I mostly wanted to introduce myself to the select board and to, whoever attended the listening session, because the Community Health Center, I don't think it's a secret that we are interested in the property. And our goal, what we are trying to do is to work out a way to have a presence in this region. So we already serve this region as part of our as our service area, and we're a federally qualified health center, so we are a nonprofit. But it's been identified as a real, an area with just really inadequate access to health care. And what we would be looking to add would be medical facilities with some behavioral health access. And I like to be transparent, and I hope to be accessible and approachable, so if people do have questions, they should feel free to reach out. But we provide dental services at the health center, but dental would not be feasible in the first round on this building. So my understanding is that this building would require pretty significant renovation, but not a total overhaul, which makes it attractive to us, because I think we'd be able to get it up to, DPH standards pretty, within more or less the framework that we have, but it's still a pretty big reno. So, so anyway, that's just a little bit about who we are and why we're interested in coming into this area. I think it would probably serve 2,000 patients, so it would not solve the healthcare access problem in the region, but it would help us sort of take that first step towards meeting the need. So I want to keep it brief because I know you have a long agenda. So. Can you give your last name? Sure, it's Vandervelden. Would you like me to spell it?
I can get it to you.
On the website too, at chcfc.org. You'll find my long name there. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Dr. Warner.
Richard Warner, 39 Upper Street, and I'll be very brief. I'm just going to repeat what I've said in the past. We have 2.5 full-time medical providers in the Shelburne Falls area, serving an area population of 15 to 20,000. So we are still grossly underserved, and if and when I retire, we will have 1.5 providers to serve that population. And in the current medical and insurance climate, very unlikely we're going to get private practitioners to set up a practice here. There's just too much competition financially in the cities and suburbs. I think we need a government-financed health center here, and we have what looks like a golden opportunity to me to achieve that here by selling the building to the Franklin County Community Health Center. So I'll put in one more plug for that.
Thank you. Okay. So it's, what's it been, 2 weeks? 3 weeks now since our last meeting? 2 weeks. Yeah. Shortly after our last meeting, we did have a executive session. We met with town council in regards to working on setting up an RFP for this building. He has since sent over, I think, what was it, 3 different 3 different RFPs that they kind of had models for, that we could use as guidance, to really create our own. And what my suggestion is that, you know, I would like to see really what everybody would really be bringing to the table for this RFP, and not just really pigeon-toeing the town. I don't think that would really be in our best interest as a whole. You know, I do agree. I've heard what everybody in town, or at least the people that have been present with these meetings, would really like to see. I think there's a lot of great ideas. And I think we're ready now, with all the information that we've gathered over the last couple of meetings, to where we can maybe set up a committee for putting together this RFP and getting it out to the public, and getting it out to bid at that point. Do either of you have anything you'd like to add for that?
Well, I think that as we're going to be the decision-making board, we've been listening this session and the one before, and we really haven't discussed it amongst ourselves.
Right.
And what we've heard, and that I think is a good point to do. We have these 2 different ones that offer different approaches. You know, we have a lot of, it's not something that we're going to be doing pretty quickly, I don't think.
No.
And I brought up the fact that last time, and well, again, it doesn't mean that's where I'm floating, but I really think about it. Last year, we had a $186,000 override because we don't make enough in this small town. We don't have enough things like that, where this is a $400 and some odd thousand building, that puts a little nice nest egg in the coffer. I'm just saying this from that point of view. I've heard this from some. And roughly a $400,000 building is approximately $7,000 in taxes every year. So, you know, if you think about it, you know, we have to think of everything. This is the dilemma we're sort of stuck into, you know, the idea of having I wish we were a very rich community. We can give buildings away to anybody who wants a building. You know, I realize we're also talking about, Brad's helped me a lot to think about that a little bit. We could still keep it and put in some, even if it was for nonprofit, we could still create enough to pay some of the taxes, because we have to think of all 1,800 people in town here, and I realize the mental health stuff is in mental health, and the medical things are really important, and I agree 100% with that too, but I also agree that, or other people say, and I said it myself, maybe it's better to sell it and take that money, put it in our coffer, so we don't have to have another override this year or next year. I mean, as I said, we have a lot to, I'm only saying what we're going to go through as a select board. We have to think of all this stuff, and it's not going to be an easy decision, but we will listen to everything. Yes, ma'am.
So sorry. Marielle Alcaz, 44 Green Street. If we were to lease it out, do we have an idea of like how much that would bring in?
No, I hadn't heard about it until I read Brad's statement.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So that was something we have to go through with attorney and stuff like this. You know, we're just trying to tell you. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, trying to get ideas.
Thank you.
Last time we certainly know we had mostly, I think it was 12 out of 20 some odd people here spoke about community health center.
Yeah.
So I appreciate.
Yeah.
Not the 12 all back here once again, and we've done it. We've heard some very good people talk about, as John had with the housing that way. We've had, you know, come with your businesses going in there, continuations and all these things that release the town from the responsibility of the building. And then again, we've heard Brad's here tonight that maybe we should keep it and put the still the liability on the people who are renting from us by doing that. So we have a lot to think about. We're going to go through legal counsel, correct?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Who?
Oh, Dina?
Oh, and then Jan.
Oh, and Jan. We'll get you next, Jan.
Okay, so am I on?
Yep.
Okay, when you're thinking about the pros and cons of selling the building to a not-for-profit or a for-profit, you have to keep in mind, say you sell it for $300,000, you would earn, if you invested that, you would earn way more than the 2.5% to 3% that you would, we would probably get on, for taxes. I think it may be a false assumption that there isn't value, ongoing value in selling that building. So I would just put that in your pocket and ignore it if you want. But the fact that you have that money up front can also mean that you could invest that and make ongoing revenue from it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. Jan?
I don't know what an RP is. I think that's what you're applying. Is it some sort of report, or what is that?
Oh, the RFP. So that is,
Request for proposal.
it's a request for proposals. So that would be,
Okay.
yep. So basically, it would be the town putting the building out to bid at that point. I'll let Heather explain it.
So Jan, as a municipality, we have to follow whenever we're selling a property that has a value over, I believe it's $40,000, you have to go through 30B, which is a state statute that says that the disposition process has to be very public. Some communities use a RFQ, which is request for qualifications, or that makes it very site-specific. And here the select board is thinking about a request for proposal, which the acronym is RFP, which makes it much more broad, so that all of the different people that are here or that have contacted the town with an interest would be able to make a proposal of what they would use that building for. And it would free up the board to make a decision based upon more than just the bottom line. So although the price point is certainly going to be part of that conversation, it doesn't hamstring the board to pick just the highest bidder. It allows them to have a little more discretion in the type of use that they select for that particular property. And the third option would be an auction. That's another public process that could be used. But most communities use the sealed RFP, and there'd be a newspaper advertisement. It would have to go on the central registry, which is the Commonwealth's procurement site, Combuys. So there'd be a number of different places that this would be advertised, so that even people outside of this immediate area would see it and have the opportunity to place a proposal for the town to consider.
And isn't there someone already who's interested in terms of the medical clinic? That's one possibility, that there's already someone who wants the building.
Yep.
I just been trying to remember what.
About 2 speakers or 3 speakers ago, you heard from the executive director of the health center.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. And then the board makes a final decision?
They do. If you recall, there was a town meeting a few months, when was that? November? October? We had a special town meeting, and one of the articles on that town meeting was a town meeting authorizing or transferring the responsibility to the select board to dispose of this property.
Okay.
So yes, it is the select board's decision.
And not an easy one,
Yeah.
not at all.
Is there going to be any more chance to see what the best options seem to be, and to have townspeople talk more about it, or is this the last meeting, including us?
So our next, I think the next phase that we'll be moving into is we'll be putting this out for RFPs, at which point, you know, we're probably going to be looking at setting up a committee to review these RFPs, to then be able to bring to the board at that point, which would, I believe that would make it public once those go, correct, Heather?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So
Before
at
I say,
that point, we would hear what the committee has to say.
I'm going to put a comma there and say that I'd ask council to review whether or not there's a provision that would allow the review committee to review them in public session or not in public session. I don't know the answer. I don't know if there's a privacy issue there for the bidders. So before I say yes or no, I would like to just double check with council.
Yeah, or maybe, yeah, okay.
I'd like to clarify, what committee, what kind of committee are you talking about? This is the first I've heard of a committee to review.
that was the next portion. We're moving into that.
Okay, thanks for that.
So,
We may learn something from these RFPs, we don't know.
Right.
We're going into with them.
So I think, you know, being that there is so much interest in this, I would feel probably more comfortable by having a committee set up to be able to review these RFPs as
Along with the board.
Right. Right.
The thing is, I mean, we have three samples here, and they have a different approach, and I think we need to decide without providing them, or before we just, you know, have a
We have to
committee,
make our own.
You know, and what, you know, one leaves it to the board to decide what is the, in this, they set up evaluation proposals here. They have, this one does this one. This was specifically for affordable housing, so they have a specific
Right.
bid proposal for that one. And this one said, goes by the best interest of the town, so that's much bigger, you know, that's much open-minded, you know, open. So in this case, these three were like land parcels in different towns. One was in Middleborough, one was in Wilmington, and one was in, Duxbury. So I think it's a combination that we're probably going to do here.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So we have ways to go.
Right, so I think it would be up to, you know, and that's why I feel personally that, you know, having a committee to actually be able to work with us and coming up with, putting together the RFP for, you know, that's gonna be specific to the town of Buckland, and not just the three of us trying to get something put together.
Although it's
Yeah.
ultimately our decision.
Correct. Yep, so basically they would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but this committee would be,
My favorite thing to
you
do.
know, and you're getting very good at it. But it would be up to the committee to help put the RFP together, and then also review, once everything came in. Ultimately, the decision would come down to just the board. But there would also be, obviously, recommendations from
Well, I think
the
that
committee.
depending on which RFP you choose, you would then move to sort of set, you know, after it's issued, you would work either the three of you or with council or with a larger committee to develop a scoring sheet, so to speak, you know, in which the criteria of how you want to rank these, and it would be based on which of the RFPs that you issue. And then having a broader readership of the RFPs gives you more scores, gives you more, maybe some more buy-in from the community. I think that's a great idea. I also think there's a number of staff that might be worth including on that, not myself. I want to stay out of that process so that I can help you stay organized and manage it as opposed to being in it. But, there's somebody that would represent perhaps the health care contingent, I'll call you. And then somebody that is more of a person at large, we could talk about that.
How large of a committee are we talking about?
I would say no more than 5 or 6.
Including us?
Including you, yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't want it to become unwieldy, but I do think it would benefit the board to have another set of eyeballs reading these proposals and scoring them, using the same criteria, the same scoring sheets that you're using, but it just gives you a little bit more context, perhaps.
And how do we develop the scoring sheet?
Well, so I think this board needs to meet again with council. We'll do that. We'll review, you've heard from the community now twice. I think you've got a good sense of what they're looking to see down there. We'll take that information, meet with council, put together the hybrid RFP. I think Joan's right. I think there's pieces of each of those that would be very valuable. And then we'll put it out to bid, hopefully by the end of the month. I would assume we could probably get it advertised by the end of the month. And then at that point, you would move into who you're going to ask or invite to participate in the review, and then we'll put together the criteria, the score sheets, if you will. It just makes it easier, I think, to have something more, you can say, best interest of the community. Well, where does this use fall on against that category?
Yeah.
So, does that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yes. Yep. I know like all three of us are kind of new at moving through this.
Well, you don't sell buildings every day.
Right.
But we are reasonable.
And we haven't sold one in 3 years. Right. So, because I haven't been part of this process yet, so it's kind of a learning curve for all of us. So we're working through, and but I do know, and I think I can speak for the entire board, is that we're trying to do what we feel as though is in the best interest of the town. And at the end of the day, that's really where we're trying to steer this whole thing. And I think, we were all kind of in agreement by keeping this RFP more broad and giving really everybody a chance to, show us what they'd like to bring to the town. I think is a very fair proposal, and and I think it's really going to give us a lot more insight as to what we could see for the future of the building. Heather, did we need to vote on anything for this?
No, I think that we'll move into, if you're ready to close the listening session, then that's everybody's had their chance to speak. And then we'll schedule a meeting another day for you to meet with council and begin the roll up your sleeves part of the process.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, so we are going to move out of this listening session now for the police station building, and move on to other appointments for the evening.
And Clint, I did post on the agenda that the Zoom was only going to be for the listening session because we're going to transfer the Zoom link to the planning board meeting. So, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
All right. Look at that, 6:15. And we have our next appointment.
Are we meeting back in the middle?
No, we're staying in front of you. So, and they're going in Zoom, so the Zoom is not better in that room. So we can stay.
Brian is your 6:15.
Perfect.
Hey, Brenda.
Right. So it's 6:15.
Thank Brian. I don't know.
Our next appointment is our fiscal year 24 Community Development Block Grant Program with Brian McHugh from the County Regional Housing and Redevelopment Authority. How you doing, Brian?
Good, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I'm the Director of Community Development at Franklin County Regional Housing and Redevelopment Authority. We go by HRA. We try to go by HRA because it's kind of a mouthful right now. And I was approached by Heather to come and talk with you about putting together a community development block grant application on the town's behalf. I know you've been working with Breezeway Farms for a number of years, and Linda Overing from Breezeway Farms is retiring. Unfortunately for you guys, she's been someone who I would call us friends, we've become friends over the years. We consult with one another, so I'm very familiar with their work. And we've worked with them on some block grants when a town wants to include housing rehab in their block grant application. We've been running housing rehab programs since the early 80s. We've written grants before you started using Breezeway Farms. We wrote several grants that Buckland was involved in. They participated in the program 17 different times from the 1980s, and most of those with us were for housing rehab program. But I just wanted to give you a little. This is an information meeting that we have to sort of touch on some things that the Community Development Block Grant Program is, and it was established in 1974 to meet a broad range of needs in communities. There are 3 national objectives that you have to meet one national objective out of 3 that there are in order to qualify for the grant application, or for people to qualify to get funds through the grant, whether it's the town or whether it's homeowners. The first one is that they have to, you can serve a low and moderate income population. Low and moderate income is 80% of the area median income. In this area, it's about $80,000 for a family of 4, and about $55,000 for one person household. That's one national objective. Another one is to eliminate slum and blighted conditions, and I believe that you have a slum and blighted area designated in town right now, and some of the projects you've been doing with Breezeway they've used the slum and blight national objective to qualify those projects. And according to Heather, there's not one that's ready in the pipeline right now that could be included in this application. The application's due March 24th. But the other national objective is to meet an urgent need, and it's very rare that comes around, that you're eligible for that. I've been doing this for 33 years at the Housing Authority, and only one time I've seen that come, and that was when Tropical Storm Irene came through, and there was some money available for that. But it's like last resort funding for it. So we did a small road up in Ashfield using that money. So usually it's the first 2. You're either serving a low to moderate income residents, or or person, or you're eliminating slum and blight. So because there are no other projects that are ready for the slum and, the infrastructure projects, I mean, there's just wanted to mention, there's 5 different categories that are eligible activities. One is housing assistance, which is typically a housing rehab program for low and moderate income folks. Another one's are public facilities, which are senior centers, parks, playgrounds. Another one is infrastructure, which you've been doing, is streets and sidewalks, sewer, drainage, water lines, public social services, and planning projects. Now, the public social services have been included in your grant application for a few years now. The food pantry is funded through a current community development block grant. that was awarded this summer. And it was the first time this ever happened where they combined 2 years together because of post-COVID stuff. The state was catching up on things, so they combined things together. And so the food pantry right now is funded through 2 years. So it doesnn't need to be included in this application because they're already funded through the next year. So what we're looking to do is just to include you with 2 other towns in a housing rehab program. I've talked with Coleraine and Ashfield. It would be a regional application. The housing rehab program is, we've been running it for many, many years now, and including in Buckland. And what it is, it's a program that will correct code violations, bring houses up to code, do energy efficiency improvements on the houses, do accessibility modifications if need be, that sort of thing. I always say we do everything that goes into a house. It's septic systems, wells, all the way up to the roof, wiring, plumbing, different things that are not up to code. So what we qualify people income-wise, bring them into the program. We do have 7 people on a wait list right now in town. We maintain a wait list for you. Any inquiries that come in, we usually get inquiries from someone at the town level calls us, or boards of health, or building departments call us. If someone's reaching out to them and saying, I don't have money to do anything with you. Are there any programs out there? So we have a pretty good cross referral system in place that so if someone calls in, we put them on a wait list. If there's money available, we do, I don't want to get off on a side subject, but we do have a revolving loan fund agreement with the town right now that allows us to reloan the money that comes back from the payoffs of these loans that are out there. The loan structure of these they're loans to homeowners, they're not grants to homeowners. The town would get a grant, and then the money would be given out as loans. So there's 0% deferred payment loans. Right now, the new rule is that those loans are forgiven over the course of 15 years, and after 15 years, a homeowner would owe nothing. There was a time when it was fully paid back, 100% payback. It's always at 0% interest. It gets recorded against the property. When the property sells or transfers ownership is when it becomes due and payable to the town. It comes to us, essentially, because we have an agreement with you. It goes into a revolving loan fund, and then it gets reloaned out. So right now, we have about $47,000 of your money in that fund. And typically, when we get under $50,000, we sort of reserve it for emergency cases, and there are no emergency cases of the 7 people that are on the wait list right now, so we sort of hold off because inevitably someone comes through, they've got a failed septic system, and it's going to be a $40,000 project, and we're able to address that need when if it comes up. So, yep.
How do people know about the program?
So we're about to do a town mailing right now. We have, if we had it, so there's some marketing that we do if the grant comes through. So we're going to do a town mailing to see if there's more people that are interested in the program. There's only so much you can only get up to a certain amount. And for 3 towns, you can get $1.375 million. Okay, that isn't all. We get an admin fee out of that. The state has just upped it to 30%. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it runs for 2 or 3 years. We have a staff of 5 people, and then our overhead. And so there's a lot of, I don't want to call it hand-holding, but for small housing rehab projects, there's a lot that goes in. I always say this, we can spend more time on one housing rehab project that's a $40,000 project than we do on a $500,000 infrastructure project. It's just that there's just a lot that goes into it. We do the income qualification, we qualify people income-wise. We do the inspections, the work right up. We put the jobs out to bid. We oversee them. We write contracts. We close the loans. We see it all the way through to the end. But as far as the people knowing about it, it is like, again, we do a town mailing. We might do an ad in the paper. We might do an ad in the West County News. We do, we've done, we do various ways to get the word out there. Post it on your website, that sort of thing. So we've had, Buckland's been we haven't had an issue spending money in Buckland, honestly, over the years. Right now, you have about $1 million in loans that are out there that we've loaned out over the years that will eventually come back. That's not including the ones that have already come back and we've re-loaned. So it's like, it's been a successful program in town for a long time. But anyway, so the loans are, there. You can get up to $50,000. The homeowners can get up to $50,000 loans. There's two different tiers. There's a $40,000 tier and a $50,000 tier. And the $50,000 one is if we're doing lead paint remediation at a house, if there's a septic system, if there's asbestos, if there's a historic preservation, if there's accessibility modifications to be done at those houses, they can get the higher level, the $50,000 one. If you don't have any of those qualifying factors, you can get up to $40,000. Every house that we go into that was built before 1978, we have to do some level of lead remediation. The funds come down through HUD, so HUD has the lead, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have a lead safe housing rule, it's called. So this money is, we have to abide by that. So what we have to do is look at what the federal regs are and what the state regs are, whichever one is stricter, because there's different things on each of them, and we have to follow the stricter path to bring a house into compliance. So we hire out lead inspectors. There's an RFP process for that. As Heather was just referring to, under 30B, we'll do an RFP process to hire lead inspectors that will go out and look at the houses that are built before 78. We get a report from them. We look it over. We're trained in lead remediation. So our specs will include doing it, bringing it into compliance, whether it's federal or state level. We also have to submit every single project to Mass Historic Commission. It's a regulation. Doesn't matter if the house was built 3 years ago or if it was built 300 years ago. All of them go into the state to be reviewed. So we send off the specs. We send off. There's a search on the Mass Historic website you do to see if there's a house is historic and if it has the potential to be historic, and we have to tailor our specifications to meet so that they'll approve of the project. So if a house is historic, we won't go and put vinyl siding on it and that sort of thing. We have to go through a process when there's a historic house. So. But anyway, so that's sort of it in a nutshell. I may be going all over the place here, but there's, you have a project summary, I believe, that was sent to you in the materials. And what I'm looking to do, we don't know how many units are going to be our goal. With a 3-town project grant application, you're probably looking at somewhere around 18 units in the 3 towns, and typically. We sort of weight it whatever response we get, how big a waiting list. Typically, I've talked to Heather about this, about the town being a lead community. One of the communities has to be the lead community. You have the capacity to do that. So Heather has agreed to be the lead community. And typically in the lead community, the one that we usually ask to be the lead community is the one who has the biggest wait list. So Buckland right now does, and so it just makes sense. So it may be that, let's say we do 18 units overall, we might do 9 units in Buckland, and we might do, however it plays out in the other 2 communities, 4 and 5, right? Or however, am I doing that math right? Yes, I think so. But again, that's to be determined. We're just looking to get the go-ahead and sort of put together the application and start working on it. And there will be a public hearing at the end of February that we have to do a public hearing before the grant application is submitted, at least 2 weeks prior. We sort of targeted the end of February. I can't remember what date it is as a public hearing. That'll give us about 3.5 weeks before they're due. In case someone comes to a public hearing and says they have a problem with something, we can sort of pivot before we put the application in. And at that time, we'll have the budget together, so we'll have the numbers, like what we're looking at, included in the application. If there's any questions, please ask.
Talk about
Coleraine and Ashfield together.
Okay, and
Buckland, yeah. So, We have, we typically are running about 5 or 6 grants at one time. They overlap often. They're, if you got a grant, you would sign a 3-year contract with the state. The implementation period, they call it, is an 18-month implementation period. They have sort of built-in extensions on it. We've been, our rehab programs usually run about 2 years. Sometimes we just finished one in Heath and Hawley that's on year 3, We're running one for Wendell and Charlemont, Orange, Montague, Irving, Warwick, and Northfield. There's another one. So they sort of overlap each other. Sometimes one's finishing up, we're in the middle of one, and we're at the beginning of another one. So we do have the capacity to do this. We have a staff that includes a housing rehab specialist, a construction coordinator. Both those people are out on jobs. Sometimes it's me. I was a rehab specialist and a construction coordinator for many years. But we also have other staff. We have a fiscal department. We have, administrative staff that helps manage these grants. So anyway, so I'm just looking if you're interested and you want to, give me the go-ahead to continue on putting the grant application together with the 2 other towns, that'd be great.
So I think the only question that I would have is, with the CDBG money, Heather, part of that usually goes to the food pantry as well. Is that going to be affected?
Well,
Yes,
it would be, so right now, we're in a 2-year contract with the food pantry, with the Pioneer Valley Outreach. We discussed this,
Yep.
Brian, I'll let you maybe sort of continue that.
Yeah, and so we did talk about this, should we include the food pantry? And because last year was this double year of funding, then the way that it's gonna work is that if this gets funded, then the food pantry is gonna still be funded through this period here, of this new grant. So they were funded through what they call a 22-23, FY 22-23 grant. This is 24. So it should be, so by the time that we put another grant application, if you wanted us to do an application next year, we would then put the food pantry in that grant application. There should be no interruption in the food pantry because they were hired, they got funding for 2 years.
I didn't want to put those words in his mouth. So yes, the food pantry would be considered or potentially part of the FY, it'd be 26 by then, right? No,
Well, it'll be FY 25.
Yeah, 25. The 25 grant. So they are funded and would continue to be funded. So the other benefit of this is that while we sort of regroup, we have been Breezeway Farm consultant proteges for a very long time.
Same here.
And we typically used our CDBG funds for infrastructure projects. And the eligible infrastructure projects that we have the list is pretty well checked off. And we need to sort of regroup on that. We need to look at where our slum and blight map and our what our eligibility area is. And I think that this is an excellent opportunity, and I'm really grateful that Brian and Sharon are willing to work with us to make sure that we're still bringing those funds in, that we're still eligible for those funds, and that we can now shift our focus to some housing rehabilitation and work on that need, which we know there is one. I just think it's a great, the opportunity the timing couldn't be better for the opportunity. The need is there. I would really hope that we pursue this. It's really an excellent opportunity.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that a little bit, these kind of programs are is in the new affordable housing bond bill, like they really want to push more of these programs that fix up, older housing stock, makes them more energy efficient, makes them more affordable, because your energy bills aren't as high when you get some of this work done. And if it's in the form of a loan that gets forgiven, that's very affordable, rather than going to a bank, right? So, yeah. So it just keeps a lot of people in their houses. So one of the things that we try to do now is a lot of aging in place sort of improvements. Yep. And that makes it more affordable, that people aren't having to move out into very expensive living, facilities, so.
No, I'm very aware of this program. Like I said, I know at least for the last 3 years that I've been here, we've been a very big proponent of the food pantry, and I just wanted to make sure that wasn't gonna get affected.
Yeah.
Because we have a local one here, and those guys are rock stars, so.
We've been very consistent with that support, and I don't see us walking away from that. It's just, we won't include them in this year's application because we would not want to double dip.
Right.
And
no, they're already covered, so that was my big question, is, is that they're covered for another year, so.
Yeah, and it works out fairly well, because it's like now we can talk about it more this coming year, and then include them, again,
this
just keep that
application
going.
is due in March, right?
Yeah.
So they have a lot to do between now and March.
So I would accept the motion to sign on as a lead community for the regional housing rehabilitation for CDBG grant application.
So moved, second that, so.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for changing your meeting the other day, because I was in Coleraine. I think Coleraine did change it. So I was there, and I was going to come in here after that, and I barely made it up Coleraine Mountain. I would have come down on 12, obviously. Appreciate it. Thanks.
And as part of the CDBG process, you all are familiar with the public hearing process. We'll have a public hearing, we've already got it scheduled for the February 27th meeting. So no snow dates there because we've got to advertise.
Yeah, we haven't advertised it yet. We'll advertise it, but probably we'll put a snow date in there, just like the next day, even if keep our fingers crossed,
We also have the hybrid option too, so we can always go to Zoom if we have.
Okay, great. All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
You want to move forward? Come closer to me? I mean, you're real comfortable. Okay, you're here. I didn't know if you were here or sleeping, so I just wanted to be sure. Okay. Okay. You remind me when some kids in my classroom are always back here, you know? Yeah, sorry.
All right, moving on to our first agenda item, is early voting for the presidential primary designation from ours. Make a motion to approve early voting for Saturday, February 24th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday, February 27th, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday, February 28th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Thursday, February 29th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. I don't know, I'm waiting on somebody.
I'm just still reading this. Sorry a bit.
He's writing it same
There's other people that can make motions.
All right, any further discussion?
This is down in the week of February 29th.
I know, God.
Yeah, that was the start of it, yeah.
And now we're already almost there.
I know it.
All right, bearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none? All Mass Municipal Association Annual Meeting, voting designation. I would make a motion to authorize the town administrator to vote on behalf of the town of Buckland at the MMA annual meeting.
So Barry was always going to the MMA meeting in addition to myself. So he represented the town in past years as your voting member. Always welcome to register any of you for that weekend, maybe next year. But this year, we want to make sure that we're voting. You do, in the email that I sent you, you do have a link to the policy changes that are being recommended. If you have any thoughts on any of it, please reach out. But in the meantime, just authorizing me to vote on the town's behalf is all I need.
You made a motion, right?
I did.
And she jumped in there with conversations before we had a chance to second it, but go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Thank you for doing that, Heather, seriously.
Yes.
Well, you know, Larry, we could just switch off on who does the second.
What's
Now
that?
Been here a couple of months, I think I know to say second, so my turn next.
Joan's getting ready to push you out, lady.
Listen, I've been,
The Public Safety Committee, designate appointing authority to the town administrator. Make a motion to change the appointing authority of the Public Safety Committee from the Select Board to the town administrator.
The majority of that committee is staff, and what we're finding is that when we are working through residential concerns and street listing, you know, it's just easier if I can call them and say, can you come over and we'll discuss this and figure out what we're going to do, as opposed to a 48-hour notice. So open meeting law allows, because I am not an elected official, I don't have to.
So
I'll second that.
the staff for this committee is mostly made up of police, fire, the emergency management director, and the highway department.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Also, Tony Jewell and Janet Sinclair also sit on that committee, and Tony is here enough that we call him staff, so.
okay.
But Tony enjoys it though.
He's so good. He is so very good on that committee, so I'm, but,
He's a genuinely good guy.
yeah.
With a sense of humor, so use it.
Oh, yes.
All right. We have another request for determination, reconsideration of a financial disclosure of a non-elected municipal official. Michael Holberman is again looking for us to reconsider the approval of his financial disclosure to allow him to work with the planning board as they create a bylaw amendment for short-term rentals. So I believe we voted on this back in the fall.
Yeah, his status, or his partner's status has changed with the short-term rental opportunity is no longer in use. He's changed his disclosure form. I'm happy to see if he's in the other room for the planning board meeting. If you'd like me to ask him to come out, if you feel that you'd like to.
Now, he's changed, not his wife does not have a
Short-term rental anymore.
short-term rental anymore.
They are not drawing income from that property.
Okay, so there's basically then what you're saying, that there's no longer a conflict of
No,
interest.
right.
But is that a permanent situation?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's anything that we can really
only while we do the bridge, that would be our concern.
We'd make that a condition.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just curious, I mean, he's not.
I mean, is there, when it comes to that, is there any time frame?
Says we do not anticipate earning income from short-term rentals during 2024.
So what I would maybe suggest is that if the planning board has not brought their short-term rental bylaw to town meeting by the end of 2024, that you ask the applicant, or you ask the planning board member to revisit this with you, that this is only valid until the end of 2024 and/or the short-term rental bylaw is passed.
Yeah.
I think that's a good addition.
Agree with that?
Yep.
I mean, because there certainly isn't anything that would prohibit any of the other planning board members after the
Right.
bylaw is to,
Well, that's it, we can't, you know, we can't really make a determination on what they're gonna do. You know, that kind of pigeon-toes everybody in town at that point.
But I know he's really wants this committee to.
Well, and, yeah, you know, and I felt bad before, but,
We had to.
yeah, you know, there was, at that point in time, there was a conflict because, there was a financial interest there. At this point right now, if there is none, I see no bearing on, not letting him, you know, be a part of it.
Right, and him having experience with it,
He's,
you bring that to the
Exactly,
table.
correct,
he is good at that.
yep.
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
I would make a motion to determine that there is not a conflict of financial interest for the planning board co-chair Michael Holberman. But I would also include that this is for the 2024 year, and that if this,
Reopen.
yeah, that he would have to readdress it with the board at the start of next year.
I'll second that.
Okay, Joan said she was gonna, but.
I know, I was waiting for her. I'm trying to give her responsibilities, you know?
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
You gonna run and tell Michael?
I can, yeah.
Documents to sign. So we have contracts for the town accountant.
Yeah.
Currently, we contract town accounting services through the FERCog, but due to changes in our ability to access software through the FERCog and the need to now purchase our own licenses, we can no longer afford the assessment to FERCog and the software licensing. It looks like we have negotiated a contract with the accountant, whereas he would leave his employment at the FERCog and become a part-time, 8-hour-per-week employee of the town of Buckland. I've had a chance to read over the contract.
He's a good man.
Yes, yeah, I think he's doing a very good job for the town.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to accept the, or to sign the contract for the town accountant.
I'll second that. Beat John on that one.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none? Were we not bringing yours up tonight?
I think you and the board should not at first. I think you can do that in executive.
Okay.
But just for full disclosure, my contract is up June 30th of this year. And I would like to renegotiate for another term. if you'll have me. And I've presented a draft to Clint, and you can either authorize him to negotiate directly, or you can meet and review it and talk amongst yourselves and then present it to me back, but the ball is sort of in the board's court.
How many years would it be good for?
3. Well, the original contract was a 3-year contract, and then we signed a 1-year extension because there was a lot of transition with the board. So that made a good deal of sense, and now that we seem to be in a good place, and that extension is coming to an end.
How do you want to handle it?
If you'd like, I can forward the contract proposal to you guys. I do have that in my email for you to review, and I'm fine either way.
That
We
is
can
a
either,
privilege that you can, that is an exemption. You can meet in executive session to review that and discuss it. And then if we get a meeting with town council scheduled for next week, you can tack that on for 15 minutes before or after.
that'll work.
Okay.
That will work. All right.
I was wondering why she's being so nice tonight.
I'm not going to say a word.
It's not for another couple of weeks.
You didn't even give me any sympathy for my
Oh,
cousin.
I did.
Excuse me, can you, what were you going to be in executive session for? When you turn that way and speak, I can't hear a thing.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, I mean, obviously we need to address it.
we're,
Maybe I should sit over there with her.
So we'll be meeting in executive session to discuss the contract for Heather,
Oh,
the
okay.
town administrator.
The acoustics in here are terrible, Mary.
They're awful.
It would be nice if we had some sort of a way to kind of, so it doesn't bounce up as tin walls here, you know?
Even when people were sitting at the table and using the mic, it's hard to hear.
As I said, we need, like they do in opera houses, you need drapes, you need soft material against the walls.
It's a great place to meet.
But you'd have to really, you would have to every bit of it. You could knock 90% of it down with, but think how much drapes would cost just for,
Don't give Heather ideas, she'll go shopping.
Well, no, she doesn't have a contract yet, so she.
She wants to sell shed anyway.
So, in all seriousness, I am going to meet with the Council on Aging within, I think their meeting is next week, or the week after, to discuss their mass in motion funds. That's the grant that is a renewable grant, $4,500. And I have a request into them for some acoustic technology for this space, because although all of us in this room are certainly not seniors, there are some seniors that come to our meeting that I think struggle with the audio, and it would just be beneficial to everybody, but in particular, I think it qualifies for that grant because it would certainly enable, and it would also improve the quality of the sound for the people that are joining us via Zoom. The mics on our desk only work for the false cable, they don't work for that. So.
Right, yeah.
But anyways, that is on my list. I've identified that I'm going after the Council on Aging's money for that.
Are you coming to the January 18th meeting?
Is it the 18th?
That's the one here.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll be there.
Next week.
Yeah. It's not just for seniors too. I mean, there are a lot of people who have significant hearing loss.
But for me to qualify the grant, the eligibility, I have to play that angle.
No, I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Collective highway bid. Yes, ma'am? Okay. We're looking to designate the authority to the highway foreman. I would make a motion to authorize Anthony to act as on the town's behalf for the annual highway materials and services bid process, and to be able to sign the bid designation form.
I second that. It's great.
Okay, any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. The Lower Pioneer Valley Heating Oil Cooperative bid. The town bids the purchase of the heating fuel through the Lower Pioneer Valley Cooperative. This would authorize, I'm assuming Heather?
Yes.
You? Okay. To place the buy order for next season. We've typically purchased 3,000 gallons to be shared between the town hall and the police station during the last season, 22-23. We purchased a total of 2,891 gallons of heating oil that were purchased last year, 1,113 gallons of which were used at the old police station, and 1,774 gallons at the town hall. So we purchased in total 2,607 gallons in fiscal year 20 and 2,033 gallons in fiscal year 21. So hopefully that number's going to drop dramatically too once we figure out that building.
So I guess that's my question to the board is, you know, if we've bought 3,000 gallons in the past and you've got the actual usages for last year, are you comfortable with a 2,000 gallon purchase for next year? Do we anticipate, or should I? The thing is that if you buy 3,000, you have to buy 3,000.
Yeah. You used 1774 last year?
Here, yeah.
You did here, which is what we only be worried about.
Yeah, well, but, I mean, in theory, right? If for whatever reason things change and you decide not to sell the police station or to lease the police station, and we're still responsible for the heat.
We would end up paying a higher.
We get a
Higher
payment.
rate, yeah.
We would pay market.
Yeah.
So I guess my thought is that, I don't know what my thought is.
Does this roll over, would this roll over in the next year if we did not use all that we purchased?
You're gonna take.
So,
We need a slight.
I would be more inclined to stick closer to what we were utilizing for the town hall.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if for some reason we still have that building down there,
Right.
then we have to purchase it, we would end up paying a little bit more per gallon. But, you know, if we,
But I think if we rented it, if we ever
but if
do
we
it,
stay,
we get their money to pay for it.
right, if we stay with the 3,000
Yeah.
gallons,
We can lose.
we could be eating 1,000 gallons,
Yeah, I agree.
1,500 gallons, at the end of the
Are
season.
you comfortable with 2,000, or is it what, you know?
That's the number that I have on the buy order now, waiting your.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that, that's a 300, almost a 300 gallon differential right there, if, you know, we still have there. If it was a little colder next year than this year,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's not much you can,
no.
I think we'll end up with a little extra this year anyway, because the police station is just not being
Yeah.
used as much as it was last year. So I anticipate the 3,000 gallons that we have now, you know, I'll be investing in a storage tank.
should we almost maybe try to go a little bit lower than the 2,000, since we're not even hitting that mark anyways with the town hall? And then if we need to, then we pay a little bit extra at the end.
Sure. Or, I guess the other way to look at it is, we have a little bit of a buffer if we do have to heat the police station for a little while next year.
Yeah.
Why don't we go with the 2,000
Let's
and,
do 2,000 and then we can readdress it next year.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a good idea.
And this is a great program. We do very well with the pricing with this organization. I'm very glad for it.
Hey, if we sell the building and it's full down here, they're gonna buy it from us too.
There you go.
Make a motion to authorize the town administrator to submit a buy order on behalf of the town for 2,000 gallons for the 24-25 heating season.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Permits and licenses, the transfer station 2023 inspection report from the Department of Environmental Protection. You guys had a chance to look at the inspection report? Okay. Make a motion to accept the inspection report as presented by the Franklin County Solid Waste Management District Executive Director. Jan has offered to come to a future meeting to discuss any of the questions or concerns you might have about the report. I don't have any after looking it through.
Second?
Any further discussion? Do you guys feel as though we would like Jan to come and explain anything on the report for us?
I didn't see anything bad in the report, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Minutes and warrants. The meeting minutes for December 12th. Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 12th as written.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? None, all in favor? Aye. Also make a motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll warrants for January 2nd, or for January 2nd, 2024.
Second that?
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And lastly, I make a motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll warrants for December 18th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Alright, items not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. We have recently received, or I guess Ashfield has put together a letter to send to, was it Mass DOT?
Yes.
In regards to the bridge located on Apple Valley Road. What I would like to do is make a motion to allow the chair to send along a letter of support in regards to that bridge, because it does affect quite a few residents, well, almost all Buckland residents off of Apple Valley Road. You know, I know there was a letter that actually went out to us from one of the residents. And I think we should, I would like to try to do everything that we can to support that and hopefully try to get that project moving. So I would like to make a motion to allow the chair to sign off on a letter of support with the town of Ashfield to Mass DOT.
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? No? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none? I have nothing else. Select board member concern? Nothing then? Come on, usually you come out with something here.
Let's see. You know, I would really encourage people to participate with the two-town newsletter. It's a good way to get the news out. You know, like I was saying, to have it would be great if you put our early voting in there. It doesn't cost anything, and there might be issues, you know, like say if there's a meeting or whatever, but I'd like to encourage people to do it. It's free, and it's a totally volunteer operation.
I was able to actually finally sit down and I read the last one. There's a lot of information there. So I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job with it. Okay.
And I did give Brad a tour of the police station, and Heather and I are going to be getting Sarah, haven't you, the last time? A tour as well, so.
All right. Anything from you? Town administrator short report.
Hint taken.
Oh, did I say one thing? I forgot. Did I say one more thing?
Sure.
I think that the highway crew did a great job on the winter storm. I know that's your overseas, but you know, then you have the rainstorm, you know.
Yeah, they've had a few hours this week, so.
Good working crew, though. They really, it's a pleasure seeing them working, not hiding.
Yep. It sounds like everybody is meshing well up there.
The proof is how quiet social media was.
Right, exactly.
You know, when you don't see it, when you don't see that issue popping up on our social media, that's when you know you're having a good storm response. The guys did put in a tremendous number of hours, making sure that the roads stayed clear, the sidewalks were cleared. But I would like to just acknowledge that it was their planning that was the most impressive. I know that they got teased a little bit because they were out spray painting all of the drainage inlets. But that enabled them to find them very quickly on Monday night and Tuesday morning and get them cleared so that we had access, or so the stormwater had access when that deluge came through. So that was really very, you know, something that they came up with and got taken care of, and I thought it was very effective. So, yeah.
I'd also like to point out to people that, you know, at this point in time, it is just our crew that is maintaining all of the roads during storms. So, you know, it is going to take them a little bit longer because we have hired no contractors. We do have a full crew, but usually in the past, we've had a couple of subcontractors out assisting. So, you know, there might be a little bit more accumulation on the roads, just so people are aware that, you know, they are out there and they are coming, but it's going to take them a little bit longer because the route's a little bit longer right now. Yeah, no, I think they kept up with it pretty well. So, all right. Now, can you have Heather's report?
Yes, sorry.
No, that's of course. So I just wanted to let people know, speaking of roads and pre-planning, we know that we were talking about the bridge that's out in Ashfield on Apple Valley Road. We know that we're just as susceptible to those types of casualties. And the one we're watching right now is the culvert that is on Elm Street at Birch and Pine. We've had the MEMA representatives come out and take a look at that so that it's on their radar as well. I've authorized VHB Consulting to spend $3,000 to put together a very brief construction estimate of what it would take to replace that culvert. I've asked them to look at it from two approaches. One would be to put a couple of the you know, a quick fix, putting a few culvert pipes in there, and then another, you know, more long-term fix, which would be to put a actual precast culvert in. So they're working on that for us, and that's what we'll use with MEMA to start looking for some grant funding sooner than later. But I just want residents to know that we're taking that pretty seriously. We understand that there's a clock ticking on that particular
Yeah,
path.
they're football shaped now. It used to be
Yep.
round, they're football
Yep,
shaped.
yeah. And we also know that that would really sort of strand about 40 homes. And that was what caught MEMA's attention. So for them, and they've also outlined and provided Herb and I with some guidance as to what steps to take should there be a failure. So just letting residents know that that's on the...
The guy from, that I was there.
Yep, Nathan, yep.
Yeah, he assured us, he says, don't worry, you won't be stranded. He says, we have the right to take over a land or something to, you know, to extend the road, as we talked about other things in an emergency. And he says, and we have equipment and things we put down to protect that land. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah. No, I was glad when he came out. Did you see his backpack, his Inspector Gadget backpack?
Yes, yes.
Gosh, I want one. A backpack
He
envy.
was the right back for everything, which is the center for the emergency.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
So we'll stay in touch with MEMA and supply them with the information, but I'm just letting you know that was, and we took that from the grant match account that was authorized by town meeting two years ago. So that's the type of opportunities that come up, that having that little bit of money put aside really pays off. So the FY25 budget development is ongoing. Each of you has been meeting with your counterparts on the finance committee, with your department heads, to start reviewing budget needs, capital project needs. I appreciate that process. I think it's unique to this town. I don't know how widely used it is, but I think it's very effective and gives department heads an opportunity to really sort of chat about what their department is, where their department is growing, where they need support and resources, and it means another set of ears than just mine. So I think that that's very valuable, and I appreciate it. I know they do too. We intend to have a draft budget by the middle of February. So I will be bringing that to the Finance Committee for their review, and then probably to your board on the 27th for your discussion purposes. And then we'll be finalizing the budget in March, getting ready for town meeting. So just letting you know it's ongoing and on track. And then lastly, the guys have been working when they're not out painting drainage inlets and clearing snow piles. They've been working on the salt shed. We have noticed that there's been some trespass. We're concerned that the kids are getting into there with the lack of secure doors anymore. After that tractor trailer hit it, we were really in a tough spot to secure it. So they've been doing the best. But I just ask that residents that live and drive that neighborhood just to be mindful, and if you do see anybody hanging out that doesn't need to be there, either let me know or shovel control so that we can, limit any issues. I think that's all I have, unless there's questions from the board.
I have a question on the budget though. Has there been a directive that people don't increase the budget, or how is that?
I have found that there hasn't been a need to issue a statement that tells the staff not to. I think that you'll find that, that the staff is incredibly mindful of making sure that they do their due diligence when they're putting their proposal together. And nobody is, we just don't have that. The budget isn't that deep, if you will. Every expense is pretty transparent. So the increases that do make it into the budget are ones that can be verified, and, you know, that's, you know, and to say that a budget can't go up by a certain amount would almost be somewhat counterproductive, because there are some budgets that are just, for example, the refuse. You know, we know that budget will be going up well over, you know, into the double digits again this year, percentage. So, you know, we control it where we can. But yeah. I know a lot of communities and town administrators do a good job with budget messaging. I think we're fortunate that we don't have the staff that needs to hear it. They intuitively know.
Pretty much all the staff lives in this area, so they, you know, they understand. And I think they're all very in tune.
What I have typically done is after your town meeting, as I do send, when I send the budget and the town meeting results to everybody, I include a note there that just, you know, thanks everybody for their hard work and all the effort that goes into the town meeting, and, you know, any votes that they should be aware of. And that's, you know, probably too late. The horse has left the gate by then, but that's when I try to do my messaging.
All right. Public comment?
Yes, please. What about the salt shed? I don't really know where it's located. Is it considered private property of the town garage, and residents go in and steal?
No.
I don't even know anything about it.
So the salt shed, the town is still operating salt and sand storage at 50 Conway Street and the old highway garage, the rear part of that property. It hasn't been in great shape, but it really took a hit last year. A tractor trailer truck that was delivering salt backed into it and made it so that the doors don't close properly anymore. We certainly filed with the insurance, but because we know we're getting out of that building, the amount of work to retrofit new doors just didn't seem to be a good use of money. But now that we're realizing that people are getting in there and they're not stealing anything, it's just kind of a, you know, it's
Jumping down.
Yeah, they're jumping down into it's. I don't know what
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean it's really dangerous, but you know that's the I think probably the attraction for the kids that are getting in there. So we talked to our insurance company. They're aware of it. They've made sure that we've got it properly posted. No trespassing. But even though we've taken care of sort of that part of it, we still don't want anyone to get hurt. So they're trying their best to get it as secure as possible to keep people out that don't need to be there.
When I went by it, I noticed there's doors in the back and the rear part.
Yeah.
Those brand new?
They're not brand new. They're ones that we had that they found in storage.
Yeah, it looks more secure.
Yeah, they've spent some time on it.
Yeah, did a good job.
But it's just, it's worth mentioning in a public setting that unless you work for the Buckland Highway Department, you do not need to be on that property. It is not safe, and we care about your safety, and we would prefer that you not be there.
And I believe they have a sand container up at the new facility.
Yes, they do. Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get your
So if
sand.
people want to go up and get a little bit of sand, there is a sand container at the new highway garage off Sear Street.
And I'd like to also say ditto to you, and the town garage personnel did a great job during that, I wasn't 2 or 3 days storm, because it seemed like it went away and it came back about 8 hours later.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
They did.
We're very lucky. We've got a great crew.
Okay. Upcoming meetings, we have our January 23rd Select Board meeting. That will be at 5:30. We also have, for February, is the 13th and the 27th. At this point in time, those are both going to be at 5:30 as well. I would move to adjourn.
I'll second it, because my turn.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, and have a good evening.